Hey everyone, welcome to Smash Trivia. I'm your host, Smash Trivia John. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Instagram by searching Smash Trivia to follow everything happening with me. I'll be the one with the big old green head in the profile picture. I'm so excited to get into this. This is the Gamma Analysis. Basically, in this series, I'm going to review everything Hulk, all the movies and TV shows. Maybe at some point I could get into comics, but that's a while off. Hope you enjoy. Smash Trivia presents the Gamma Analysis. I want to ask everyone listening if they could please do something for me. Please share the hell out of this podcast with all your friends because I would like to get the Gamma Analysis to be big enough that by the time She-Hulk comes out, maybe I could become press and either get the first episode early or be invited to the premiere or even just get one of the press goodie bags. For this episode, I'm going to review the Incredible Hulk 77 episode 4. Just so you know, this is not a critical podcast. Every episode of mine, I will always try to put positive vibes out. So while I will mention a couple things I don't like, I won't dwell on them. And the majority of my review will be things I liked in it. With that being said, I do have a guest today, and I'm not going to force him to follow the same code of positivity if he doesn't want to. Our guest today is Keith, a.k.a. KeithSketches, a.k.a. Filmkritter with a K. How are you doing, Keith?
Oh, my mood immediately shifted as soon as you said we were looking at episode 4. My goodness, I'm doing good, but I'm so glad that you don't force me to be entirely positive about an episode the way you will be, because, my goodness, episode 4, I have some problems. I have some beefs.
Oh, okay. Well, for my trivia question for this one, what alias does the Gray Hulk use? What's your answer for that?
Oh, goodness. You know what? I wish I knew more about any other Hulk than just the green one. But Trevor? I'm going to go with Trevor.
Okay, well, we'll see if your answer is correct later in the episode. And before I get into the review, I just want to say, as I do every time, I don't recap what I watch scene by scene, so I highly recommend watching the episode before you listen to the podcast. All right, so let's get into this review. The episode 4 is titled The Beast Within. What did you think of this title for the episode, Keith?
I think it made perfect sense. I think that not only is he going back to a place where he's finding someone else who's studied anger in animals and mammals and stuff, but he's also, the whole damn thing is surrounded by beasts. The whole episode features several different animals. I'm very glad that the animal wranglers got paid big on this one.
Yeah, I think you're right. It is a very good title for this episode. And honestly, I think so far out of the 4 episodes we've watched, I don't think any of the titles were bad titles. I think they all were pretty good for the episodes.
Yeah, they're clever. They make sense, to the point.
I hope this bunch of flashing scenes from the episode before the intro does not continue through the entire show. But at least it looked like an interesting episode to me from those flashing scenes. Finally, I think we were getting some sciencey stuff like in the pilot as David came to the zoo to try and meet someone who did a paper on anger and aggression in animals. Do you have anything for that, Keith?
I was just thinking like how lucky it is that we meet Claudia Baxter pretty quickly, I think. And I don't know if you've gotten to this point yet with your notes, but their conversation where she basically says, oh, I never had the chance to meet him, but it would have been so nice. Like, not only is it very lucky that she never had the chance to meet him, but at this point, and when he was kind of revealing, even though he was meant to be kind of a handler there, or not a handler, but like a handyman, he knew all this stuff about this research that she's doing. Did you think at this point, because I totally thought that one of two things was going to happen, that either she was going to figure out that it was him, that he was the one who wrote the research papers that she'd been, modeling a lot of her research after, or that he was going to tell her because clearly he was kind of a hero to her or a mentor in research. I was surprised.
Yeah, I was thinking that one of those was going to happen. David tells people a different last name everywhere he goes, but he always keeps David, which I feel like at some point McGee ought to realize someone named David shows up everywhere the Hulk does. I think that's really funny that he hasn't thought, maybe I should change my first name too.
Yeah, that was one of my things later in the episode. I was thinking to myself, okay, if he wants to keep off of McGee's radar, he's going to have to stop coming up with basically he fits the description of a guy named David B something who doesn't know how to mind his own beeswax. Like he basically
who also happens to be super smart.
Because so you're an investigative reporter. Even if you weren't the same one at every sighting, you would go and talk to other people who'd run into the Hulk. And you'd say, oh, what's going on around this area at the time? Oh, okay, where there was a stranger named David something, and he was very smart, and he really liked to get involved, and he wouldn't take no for an answer. That would be a damn good clue, but
yeah,
it is the 70s, and it is television.
Yeah, you sometimes you have to let a few things slide because of the things were a lot less complex back in the 70s with entertainment.
Yeah, everybody hadn't seen everything by that point.
Oh, God. Dr. Claudia Baxter has to deal with a male coworker who's trying to force her to be with him by saying he can get her the grant money faster. Oh, God.
I felt that she was very much a prey in a sea of predators in this zoo, unfortunately. The amount of times that we heard in the first couple minutes how attractive she was. Like, oh, there's a really attractive professor up there. Oh, her research is so attractive.
God. It's really sad, the blatant sexism of the 70s. Oh, man. So my favorite animal is monkeys and any kind of primate. So I love when I get to see them in shows because I watch, honestly, they're just so adorable to me. So I was really happy that we got that in this episode, which I think is so funny because I saw on the Discord we're in that you were having a conversation with someone who hates these things.
She's actually, that's the difference between people who get to see them from afar and people who've had to work with them is if she ain't, if her whole lifestyle isn't based around researching them and she just has to handle them, I'm sure like they're the worst ones to handle or one of the worst.
Probably.
Because they'll outsmart you.
Yeah, probably. The only time I've gotten to go behind the scenes at a zoo was when I went into the penguin exhibit, but nice. So I did meet some monkeys, but yeah. Yeah. So the reason why I actually was able to do behind the scenes is my aunt works at a zoo in Texas, and when she came to visit, she was able to get us back behind the scenes at a zoo because she was dating someone at that zoo at the time. So able to get us behind the scenes was just such a cool thing to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That would be very cool.
Within the zoo world, apparently my aunt is actually really well known. She's been working at the same zoo for 50 years or something. And she actually appeared in an episode of a TV show on Discovery Channel once.
Whoa, very cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I love that Dr. Claudia mentioning Dr. David Banner's work and how long-winded he was. Though I'm surprised if she knew of Banner that she didn't recognize him. I imagine just like now, I would guess that in the 70s, they would have someone's picture at the end of their published work.
I was thinking the same thing, and I was like, okay, maybe it didn't happen every time, or maybe it only happened if they published a book as opposed to a research paper. I don't know, but all I kept thinking is if he was a scientist today, he would have had a TED Talk on the YouTubes, and he would have been easily recognizable right away, and she would have been like, I could have sworn I saw, and then she'd go check out on her smartphone, and he'd be busted. But yeah. Well, let me ask you, what was so his name in the first or the second episode, do you remember what his alias was? I was going to go back and actually watch, but I can't remember now. I want to say Benson or Bennett or something.
I think he's used both Benson and Bennett in 2 of the episodes. Okay. And then I think the other one they used was Bradburn.
Yeah, Bradburn was this episode.
I think those are the 3 that we've heard already.
Okay, I'm trying to keep a documentation of that. So I've got Benson, I've got Bradburn. I'm going to add Bennett to it. I'm 90% sure that was episode 2.
I'm not sure, but it sounds familiar. So right before they showed the scene with Dr. Claudia's boss and the guy who had hit on her
Carl
with the monkey. Like, I had actually wrote right before I saw that scene, I'm gonna make a prediction that the virus that killed those animals was foul play by the guy who wants her to go on a date with him.
Yep.
It was so obvious that he was gonna be a bad guy.
See, I went with the other guy mainly, and I can't remember his name. It started with an M, Dr. Monroe, maybe. But the other guy who came in, her boss came in, and I was immediately like, and I will full on steal this from Brandon of the Avengers podcast. You might be a bad guy if you're an old white male in the Incredible Hulk series, because every old white guy is the bad guy so far. Anyway,
yeah.
But yeah, the first the second 3 episodes, I guess, mostly, because you got Dr. Feeney, and then you've got Sariago or whatever the hell the boxer manager's name was in the last one, and now Dr. Monroe. What I was surprised was more so is that this show still keeps me on my toes, because I did not expect him to be the lesser of two evils.
Yeah. I didn't actually expect that the boss was gonna be bad, because he seemed like he was a nice guy and when we met him, but it was pretty obvious when they showed the scene with the monk. David say he's not dead.
He's like, hey, I'm a doctor.
Yeah.
I know a dead monkey when I see one. And trust me, I'm a doctor. I do all the autopsies myself. Yikes.
From the same scene with the monkey, I was like, that poor chimp. I'm guessing now that it's in a comatose state that they're going to kill it. As a lover of monkeys, that really saddened me.
That was sad. And when I see a chimp especially, like, I don't even care if they're capable of learning how to speak and then overthrowing a nation. They are my favorite kind of ape. Chimps are so cool.
Yeah, it's so cute. And then hear that someone is going to do that to it is heartbreaking.
Yeah, not fair. It's not fair that monkey had to die to make this episode of The Incredible Hulk.
Yeah. So I imagine it probably wasn't. But yeah.
My fingers are crossed. Toes too.
Yeah.
My opposable thumbs are crossed.
And also that's considered slander. Or saying that they killed a monkey.
All right, I take it back. And they absolutely didn't rip off Rocky at all in the second episode. Or the third episode. You notice that in the lab especially, I was just going to say we're seeing this use of green lighting in the backgrounds. And in the lab especially, there was green hues. I want to say that in second episode, we did get some green tint in both the manager's office and maybe the boxing arena. Or the boxing practice area, the gym, I guess it's called. But yeah, it's just, I'm going to start noting that as well, as their lighting design is going to be very much reminding you that the Hulk is looming around any outburst.
Honestly, I haven't noticed that, but that's a really cool detail. I want $1 million bag of popcorn. Though I hope the check is in a plastic bag at the bottom so butter doesn't get on it.
Yeah, really. Yeah, to me it was like, I didn't understand what they were. I assumed maybe it was like a vial of really, important something, and maybe that's why it was so small to fit in there. But then I think it was jewelry, right?
Yeah,
so I think it was like necklaces up at the bottom of the popcorn. But yeah, you'd wanted to put it in a Ziploc.
Yeah, because that probably diminishes the value of the jewelry.
Yeah, greasy jewelry
all over. It's as I imagine. I don't know for a fact, but I imagine that the butter probably would corrode the metal.
I just imagine whatever rich fat cat that gets the jewelry on the other end is like sniffing it and going, "What is that smell?
This sounds tasty. Let me lick it. Lip."
I think this one had dill pickle flavor powder. Yeah.
Oh God.
It's still beautiful, though. I will wear it.
Yeah. Interesting. A rivalry between the villains. I think that was different from we've had in any of the other episodes, so I think that was kind of cool.
True. The closest thing I feel we had was was the mother or the stepmother in the second episode kind of hitting on Dr. Feeney and him being like, oh, I ain't taking your advances. It wasn't so much a rivalry as she was trying to manipulate him again.
Yeah.
Like, you already know you're evil. You don't have to keep proving it. But yeah, this was
I did really like, though, how that episode used, like, I know you're manipulating me because I've seen you manipulate everyone else, so why would I let you do that?
Yeah, you've shown your cards. I know you too well. True.
I love Elliot's reaction to the giraffe picture because I feel like it was like a sort of intrigued but also confused look on his face. Because the reason particularly I like that is, so there's a meme that I really like that says, how are unicorns fake but giraffes are real? What's more believable, a horse with a horn or a leopard, moose, camel hybrid with a 40-foot neck?
It does seem like giraffes have come out of some kind of fuck it machine when it comes to how they measure up and all their like, how is it other than reaching tall trees? Why do they exist? Like, why are they shaped like that? It's very strange.
I want to think that the reason why Elliot had this turning head, so a confused, intrigued look, was that he's thinking the same thing that I am.
Like, I've heard of unicorns, but what the hell is this? Yeah.
Oh, man. David, he has great chemistry with Dr. Claudia. It saddens me that just like with the first episode, most likely she's never coming back after this episode.
At least she's not dead, like Dr. Elena Marks.
But it's just like they put him into these starts of relationships and then immediately are like, oh yeah, they're not going to be coming back. I'm like, what?
I found it very interesting that this episode took the chance to remind us how long ago it was that his wife died, because my God, I did not know it was a year, because he is moving on quite quickly. Romantically, the romantic theme from the beginning of episode 1 came in again this episode. I was like, whoa, wait, we're getting a romance again already? And then they're talking and he's like, oh, my wife was a researcher. It's like, was? Oh yeah, she died last year. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. It hasn't been several years since that? Oh my God. That was a shock, because that is not something that I would have guessed he would move on from easily.
Yeah. What's the point of starting relationships and shows if you're not going to continue it? Mm-hmm. It's very obvious that it's not continuing after the end of the episode. So what's the point in doing it? You're making the audience care about something that's not going to matter. True.
And a part of me wonders and wishes, and I haven't done the research, and I almost don't want to find out if any of these relationships come back, or these characters and friends he's made along the way come back. It almost feels like in the finale of Seinfeld, for example, almost every character that these 4 absolute assholes have come back to put them in prison, essentially. And it wouldn't be obviously that direction that they'd go in this scenario, but it's like, what if one of them made a second appearance and helped him out someday? And it's like, that feels the right, but I don't know that we'll get that.
Carl, that's like in the second episode, the actress does come back later in the show, but playing a completely different character.
Oh, lovely. I love when they do that.
Okay. But when the guy who was hitting on her goes to Elliot's cage and injects him with something, it's like, no, not Elliot. Please don't hurt Elliot.
I was I was going to say that because I have definitely a lot to say about the fight with Elliot, but the thing I was going to say, the note before the Elliot scene I have is, they bring this moment where he gets close with Dr. Baxter and he takes her to lunch, something to go have something, what do you say, sumptuous or something. And they go get a hot dog. But this hot dog scene is shot with this romance haze that was used a lot in film and television, where they either put like a pantyhose over the lens or like some Vaseline smeared on it to make the whole thing look dreamlike. And it's so funny when a show is either shot this way the whole time or not at all. But these few shows that choose to do it only for one scene to conjure a feeling. It was so funny to me that it was like the romance theme came up and then the screen got greasy. And it's just very funny. I just thought it was funny.
It's like, wow.
The most romantic hot dog mustard ever.
Yeah, it's not going to go anywhere, but I digress.
You hate that. You hate it. That's fair.
It really is. It's annoying because it's like it kind of feels like you're treating the audience like they're too dumb to tell that maybe we shouldn't actually care that much about this. Like, if it's not going to return, like, you're treating the audience like they're dumb.
It's true. If the audience hasn't caught on to the pattern of this show by episode 4, that he has left everybody by the end of the episode, then yeah, there's no helping them. That's true. Mm-hmm. That's true. And the other note I had before the next scene is they're still having their little hot dog date in the middle of the day, and they choose to hang out next to the lion. Now, I don't know what zoos keep a lion in a pen that has no cage around it. Like, it's just a fence. And it made me laugh because I see this a lot in movies, and it's like even depicted in like the Madagascar films. The lion doesn't need to be in a fenced-in or caged-in area. It's like that lion would jump beyond that wall easily, unless I can't figure out how else a real zoo would do it. So it's always so, to me, it's so funny in movies and television when they make it look like, oh, the lion can leave any time. It's like, no, you think the lion's choosing to stay captivated or captive?
Yeah,
very strange.
I was surprised by something that I was like, when the guy injected Elliot, I was thinking it was something that was hurting him. I did not expect what it actually was, the aggression thing. Yes, Elliot is alive, and then we got another shirt-ripping transformation. But interesting, I actually know that there was a goof with this scene where you can apparently, I didn't notice it while watching the episode, but I saw it on IMDb. You can apparently see in the episode a hand pull the shirt back off of him and he transforms into the Hulk.
Like someone's just like, let me help you with that, Hulk.
Yep. It's pretty obviously a crew member making the scene be how it's supposed to be, but they didn't film it right.
Oh, then they didn't catch it. That's sad. That's a shame.
I love that we were getting a Hulk versus Elliot fight, but I think you have some more thoughts on that.
Well, I loved, first of all, the fact that when David finally started turning into the Hulk, the shot of Elliot tilting his head made me laugh my ass off. Yeah. And I was so delighted by that. It was brilliant. But also, it felt like a WWE match at this point, where it was just like, one gets thrown through a table, and it's a cage match, and it's like Hulk versus something that is his size and intelligence and rage, filled with rage. So it was the first time it was a fair fight. But to me, I was rooting for Elliot. I was like, this doesn't make the Hulk a hero at all. I want
I want to make sure Elliot doesn't get hurt. But you mentioned that, so it's how they are very evenly matched. They're very similar in their intelligence and all this things. So basically, it was the first MCU battle.
Yes.
Of how they first films for MCU films, they will have the villain have basically the same power sets.
Absolutely. This was instead of Abomination. It was too soon for Abomination, so they went with Elliot the Gorilla.
Yeah.
And I think that was much more on Lou Ferrigno's standards. I think the only disadvantage is that Elliot can't breathe in that suit quite as well as Lou Ferrigno can.
Yeah, probably. It was very obvious that it was a man in a suit, but I still liked it.
Yeah, no, I did too. It was still a great suit. It was a great effect. Honestly, if you don't show, and that's the genius of it, it's so obvious when a show intersperses cuts of an actual gorilla And then, when did we do close-ups and when we do interactions with people, now it's a guy in a suit. Don't do that, and you won't be lifted out of the guise, the magic. And so the fact that we never saw a real gorilla except maybe in a couple of slideshow pictures, like that was smart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that really was. I love seeing Hulk interact with children. With the scene where the little girl finds Hulk. Like just with that first episode, it's just like so cool seeing him interact with children.
Yep, I fully agree. When Hulk's hand reaches into frame and grabs the peanut and comes back out and he just eats it shell and all, I immediately thought, okay, this is kind of along the lines of the humor that you would expect in later, like, kind of MCU style humor, like the fun that could be had with Hulk. And like, I think the animated versions of the Hulk, especially since like the 2000s and on, always have the Hulk being almost the comedic relief character, especially when he's transformed on the Avengers team and stuff. He's clearly, and even in like Endgame with the whole like stairs, that whole thing, like he's the butt of the joke sometimes. And I think that's the Hulk played for humor is a great thing to see in the 70s too.
Yes. Hulk being humorous is the kind of Hulk I want. I don't like when he's just super serious.
Yeah, that's fair. That's why I was sorry, you go ahead.
Which is the main reason why I'm not a terribly big fan of the Incredible Hulk from 2008, because it's so serious.
Very serious.
Yeah.
That's the too soft, too hard thing. That was the too hard one. Yeah, everything about it was too greasy, too hard, too veiny, too dark, too scary.
I know there are some people who want him to be just completely epic and no humor whatsoever, but I can't do that because I'm like, I want the Hulk to have fun.
It's silly. It's insulting to me, if I'm the audience member, which I am, to be expected to accept a giant green man who freaks out from a little, scientist man and not expect it to it goes hand in hand with humor better than something like a serious tone. Like you have to match something that's that otherworldly and crazy with humor. And that's what I loved seeing the Hulk in Thor Ragnarok and seeing him be like, I'm a roaring fire, and Thor's tiny smoldering fire.
That is the reason why my favorite scene in the entire MCU is when Captain America tells Hulk to smash in the Avengers, and that smile that Hulk has. It's it's just so cool to see Hulk. He's happy about what he's doing.
Yeah, he's finally allowed. After years of Banner keeping him under his thumb, he's like, oh, you need me to smash? Oh, there's a world threat where maybe the architecture doesn't matter as much? Okay, I'll go smash.
Yeah.
He's psyched.
Yeah, I think Hulk really loved those peanuts.
Yep, and eating them shell and all. He ate them shell and all.
Oh, man. A callback. I don't think Hulk was on the schedule for the tour trip, though I feel like the driver should have been let know to stop the trip and evacuate the passengers, since by this time, the police have already been here, and it is now nighttime. So it's been some time past since Hulk first came out. There should have been time for him to have been let know to stop the trip and evacuate the passengers.
100%. I thought it was so. I wished in that moment though that I had been an actor on that day on that tour, because it would have been so funny to see fully made up Lou Ferrigno come out of the bushes just to do that flex that he does and have everybody scream. I think that would have been the weirdest memory to have for the rest of my life if I was one of those kids. So fun. Man. Yeah, I saw recently. I don't know why it's reminded me of this, because I don't think there were people he was interacting with, but I saw this clip of, it wasn't actually Lou Ferrigno, but there was someone it was in a Lou Ferrigno-esque look of another bodybuilder with in Hulk makeup doing a holidays
good morning, happy holidays thing. I think it was like in New York City or something. It was so, John, like, that's really cool.
Yeah, hell yeah. I'm glad that people are still paying
Cool.
tribute to the original Hulk.
That was like, I don't know when that came out, but I just saw that clip online a few days ago from a account that I follow called the Hulk Archives. So I think it was like from the 80s or the 90s, something like that.
I'm looking it up. The Hulk Archives. On YouTube?
It's on Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, Hulk holding a baby tiger is so incredibly cute.
Agreed.
Yeah,
you go ahead.
And then look on the baby tiger's face when he turns back into David and David leaves. Of like, why do you have to leave? Keep petting me.
Yeah,
this is so precious.
These baby tigers and baby lions, people get a chance to interact with at these zoos and wildlife preserves and stuff. They don't know how to be predators yet. I mean, yeah, they could be dangerous a little bit if you get them mad, or they're hyper and they don't know what damage they're doing. But they're not like a meat eating, like they're not going to kill you. And they're so damn cute. And it's hard to imagine that they're going to grow up to be some of the most apex predators that we have. But it was really funny to me when Banner got up. He's trying to get up all sneaky because he's trying not to alert the adult tiger. And the baby tiger clearly like tries to jump back on his lap. And so he has to like sneak his leg out a second time. And I know that it was probably a matter of that being the best take they had. But I thought it was kind of a funny moment that he had kind of almost like a left-in blooper with the tiger that just kept wanting to cuddle.
Yeah. Oh, man. Oh, great. It's McGee.
Oh, you weren't thrilled to see McGee? I'm surprised.
Honestly, I don't remember at all what McGee did in this episode. Do you remember anything he did?
I know I think the main plot, again, he was the plot device to make Banner leave, but in this moment, he made Banner kind of, and I thought it was kind of skeevy at first, but it ended up being a good character development for Claudia Baxter. He makes her deal with him. And he kind of, maybe he doesn't trick her into doing it, but he certainly comes up with the idea really quickly. He's like, Claudia, if you keep running from these people, they're always going to push by you. You really need to stand up for yourself. And then she goes out and does it. And it's like, oh, well, that worked. And he was just hiding in the other room. I thought that was pretty funny.
And I think it's funny of like the parallel with that because is exactly what he's doing is what he told her not to do.
Yeah.
And
then McGee hears Elliot and comes in the door, and I think that is the only time. That's the only thing with him.
Yeah, we only see him in that scene, and I think he's mentioned one time later where they say he's going to stick around the zoo, hoping to find more about it. Which I don't think he's going to find more about it.
No, I think that was the perfect thing to say. Oh, McGee might not be heavily featured in episode 5 because he's going to be back at the zoo, one step behind
Banner. Somehow be he featured more less than he was in this episode, even though this was like one scene.
You imagine he just keeps falling further and further behind to the point where he's just flashed to for like 5 seconds in like episode 9 and he's just smoking a cigarette parked at the side of the road looking at a map. He's like
at that point, if they actually did that, that would be like, are you serious? They actually had him appear just for that?
Well, they don't want you to forget about McGee. McGee's still around. Don't worry. He's coming.
I've read one piece of trivia, I think, from the entire series where it said that throughout the entire run of the show, after that first episode, Banner and McGee, they never are on screen together throughout the entire rest of the show.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah.
I would not have guessed that.
Also, when Hulk comes out, they always made sure that Bill Bixby was never on set so that to keep up this illusion of, to make it more accurate feeling with the acting of him not knowing what the Hulk looks like.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Or what the Hulk had done that day and stuff. He's like forgetting stuff.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot, actually. And it would probably help the other actors, too, think of them as the same being. Be like, oh, Bill Bixby isn't going to be over here behind camera one. He's actually, he's left for the day. That's better.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
So McGee left. I think that David should really reveal the truth to Dr. Claudia, because I don't think that Dr. Claudia would have told anyone.
Yeah, I honestly think so too. I think that was a confidant that he could have kept, and she would have respected the fact. And honestly, I'm a little disappointed in Dr. Claudia for not figuring it out.
Yeah, I feel like it was kind of obvious that, the one person who cares about this is probably the and who's smart as well. There's a good possibility he's the person who wrote that up, and
he was killed by the monster.
Yeah,
I assume that's publicized. I mean, McGee did write that.
Yeah,
right?
He wrote.
Is
he
it
wrote
still
about everything? I'm pretty sure.
I wonder if people just choose to believe it or not until they see the Hulk themselves, and then they're like, "Oh, maybe that is."
McGee is not writing anything until he finds the Hulk. Is his plan?
Yeah, I think he must have written the first story, and then it's up to people, because he did write, like, he coined the phrase "the Incredible Hulk," right? Like, he was the one who put that in the newspapers, I think, in that first episode.
I don't know. I think there was something about that, but like, at least I'm guessing maybe it is that he is waiting to finish the story until he has the full story, and he's not getting the full story, so that's why he's following.
More and more frustrated. See, that's what I want to see with McGee. If he just appears once in a while or every episode and he doesn't get a little bit more pissed off, I will be. That's a huge missed opportunity there.
Yeah, I think if he is going to keep appearing, we need to have at some point his boss coming to him and being like, hey, you have deadlines. You need to get a story out, because that's what a boss would be like in this situation.
Yeah.
You cannot be following someone around the world and not writing anything for us.
Yeah. And we're not going to send you any more per diems. You're not going to have your meals and your hotels or motels paid for anymore. I'm sorry. We're cutting you loose, McGee. And then he becomes a rogue investigator working for nobody.
I imagine like any boss in this situation would probably be thinking, he's just using company time to go on vacations after this long of not having anything to show for it.
I'd believe it. Yep. Yeah. They're like, oh, he's scamming us, this McGee. Green man.
Yeah. That's such an awful way to smuggle the diamonds. Those poor animals.
I wrote, that was in my notes. I said, ooh, this got dark. Like, I wasn't expecting, I thought, okay, they must be in the crates that they're shipping these animals in. It's like, oh, wait, no, that makes more sense. They're doing autopsies every time. They're inside the animals. I was so bummed out by that. The idea that they hid diamonds inside animals. That's horrible.
Yeah, it really is awful. You know, I've seen like different movies where they show like someone smuggling something in by having it inside them. Yeah, I feel like most of the time it's like they swallow it and then they're supposed to either crap it out or they're supposed to puke it back up again. Not, oh, we want to cut you open and take it out that way.
I mean, how do you know? I mean, to be honest though, at the crapping out thing, you would think that all these animals, their crap is cleaned up by people. How did those diamonds not show up? And then, a character like Joe find a big diamond and go, happy day, and then he just retires. Like, that's what I would expect would happen with this. Is not a foolproof plan.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's probably why they made sure it's in an area where he wouldn't come out like that. They would be cutting him open instead.
Yeah. Ew.
Yeah, probably.
Poor zebras. Poor apes.
Actually did not have any effect in the episode, because if I remember, he didn't end up taking it. I was like, oh, that's going to be a big mistake, giving David this aggression drug to overdose him. Like, I was really thinking they were going to do that, and then the Hulk would come out because they induced the Hulk to come out.
I was worried about that too, and I thought, okay, are they going to be jumping the shark if they do something like this in episode 4, where they're injecting him with a rage monster drug, essentially, and then making the Hulk unstoppable. And it's like already the Hulk is supposed to be and has fairly been unstoppable other than the few kids or someone he doesn't want to harm, you know.
I wasn't thinking of making him unstoppable. It was more of just like inducing him to come out.
Fair.
And I was surprised that they didn't do that because I'm like, it honestly kind of felt to me like a missed opportunity of them. Why would you show us this thing that could very obviously induce him, but then not do it?
I think it was. I was thankful that it didn't happen because I looked at it as if they did that now, there will be opportunities where they run out of as many cap. You know, he's always a cap. He's always a hostage, or he's always being held captive lately when he turns in that last time. To play with his chemistry, I think is something we can save for later, and I think they probably will. But I think it was to put us on the edge of our seats and make us go, "Oh shit! Look what it did to Elliot! Don't give it to the Hulk! Oh no!" And then they just took it away.
You know, I do wonder though, what would they actually do with that in the future? Because unlike with a CGI Hulk, you can't make him bigger. True. Because it was just Ferrigno. So how can you make him stronger unless you're going to somehow just repeat the throwing animation twice instead of showing it once?
Just show repeated times. Look at him throw things twice.
That's the only thing I can think of how they would make it so like he's even stronger now.
To me, I figure it would be much like how in Age of Ultron, Wanda messes with the Hulk's mind and makes him forget his friends and forget, and so I think that if anything, they're gonna tamper with his ability to stop himself.
Okay, that makes sense.
Or maybe he'll turn different colors. I don't know, but
maybe it would be really funny if he turned different colors. Like if they made a reference to the Gray Hulk, that would be really cool because this being the first ever Hulk series, and when Hulk was first introduced in the comics, that first issue was gray.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which the only reason they changed the to green was because some reason the gray did not work well on their printing presses. So they changed it to green, which ended up being probably the best thing they could do because it probably wouldn't have been as popular if they kept it as gray.
Absolutely. Gray to me, if I was the producer, or the head of the comic book company at the time, I would have been like, Gray, why are you making them gray? Let's make it pop for kids, let's make it exciting on the page. Gray seems very strange to me. I don't know anything about the Gray Hulk other than what you just told me, but
the Gray Hulk that I mentioned in my trivia question, he is not actually the same as the first issue Hulk, because the first issue Hulk is just the same as the normal Hulk. He's just as gray because that was originally what they were going to do, and then they decided just to add color because it was making problems for their printing presses. But then they later decided to introduce a gray version of the Hulk as like an homage, I think, to that original issue.
Okay. Yeah. As the first version of the Gray Hulk is a lot like the first season of The Simpsons, where Moe and Chief Wiggum and I think Smithers they're all black. They don't have. I think Smithers is the only one that goes from black hair to gray hair, but the rest of them go to blue hair. And I guess they weren't comfortable doing blue hair for anybody but Marge in season 1. Anyway, but they're still the same characters. But you're saying so the Gray Hulk isn't Bruce Banner later? Or the Gray Hulk something he turns into instead?
I don't know what... I haven't read the comics, so I don't know. But all I know is that it isn't the same as the original issue. It is a different thing. It was made gray as an homage.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm excited to see some gray.
Which I think actually it is, if I remember right, the Gray Hulk that I talk about how in my trivia question, he is the quote-unquote smart Hulk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But not necessarily Professor Hulk, which is a different thing entirely.
I think Professor Hulk is just a made-up name for the for Marvel fans in the MCU. So, but I don't know. it looks like the Hulk was having a lot of fun shaking the back of the vehicle with the bad guy in it.
Note too. That my note says Hulk gives Carl a little shake in his Jeep. He looks like he's having a blast. I was like, I knew that Jeep was getting lifted, but I wasn't expecting him to just go, ah! That was awesome.
Man, yeah. Why did Hulk pick up Dr. Claudia and put her on the car? That just felt really random.
Yeah. I don't know either. I noticed that she's on crutches in the last scene, which I wasn't expecting David to still be there. But that, I guess she hurt her leg at some point. Maybe there was a better, I would have put her in one of the seats of the car. I don't know. Seems like an odd height to put a person with a broken leg on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair. My last note was simply David Banner leaving the episode, and the Lonely Man music comes in. And how could you feel so lonely or depressed when you're wearing bright blue bell bottoms like those? My God. I was like, bell bottoms, what? It was a wonderful fashion choice. That was very of the times. Yeah, I was happy.
So it is really interesting seeing like the different fashion of how different it is now versus then.
Yep. Very
like,
cool.
I can't imagine wearing a lot of the things that they wear in these shows.
I'd wear anything once. That's my policy.
Well, so my final thoughts on the episode were I still like the pilot better, but I think this episode was pretty close to that quality. And majorly for me was like because it was a very sciencey episode versus the other two episodes were not sciencey, and I really want the Incredible Hulk show to be very sciencey. The starting relationships that go nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah. It seemed very fast for him to, and it clearly was just showing us that he has a type. Like he loves science people. He loves science women, and that's a normal type for him to have. They probably remind him of his wife. But yeah, I'd rank this like, this is my third favorite episode so far. So it's like 1, 3, 4, 2. That's the ranking so far. Yeah. But I have a trivia question for you.
Oh, so what is the trivia question?
Okay, so this says, and I wrote it, it says trivia for John. The voice of the narrator at the beginning of these episodes, what famous other show and / movie franchise is he from? And that it didn't sound like the end of the question, but that was the end of the question.
I don't remember the voice, so I can't say, but I don't think, but it definitely wasn't recognizable to me, the voice, so I don't think I would have been able to answer it, sadly, even if I had. But I'm just going to make a wild guess and say Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh my God, can you imagine? Dr. David Banner is a man on the run. Yeah, no, that would be very different, for sure.
Actually, a real guess.
Okay. Did you just Google it?
No, I did. I'm gonna say the star of the $6 Million Man.
Oh,
because I feel like that they're kind of related shows.
That's fair. The $6 Million Man has a lot of people who worked on this show worked on that show. Yeah. Same as a lot of the same people who worked on Mission Impossible and Charlie's Angels worked on the show. But no, it is the actor's name is Ted Cassidy, and he portrayed Lurch on the original Addams Family for 2 years. That's and cool. Then he also did the voice of Ben Grimm, the Thing, from the 1970s Fantastic Four. So Marvel twice for this man.
Was that a radio show for Fantastic Four? Or was that
no? It was an animated series. Yeah, in the 70s.
Right.
Yeah.
I know one thing that I think is really interesting about that the Fantastic Four radio show, and that's that the Human Torch is voiced by Bill Murray.
Whoa! What?
Yep.
Whoa! Wait a minute. Now I'm wondering if I got this wrong. Is Ted Cassidy from the radio show? And maybe it just had a picture of the Fantastic Four?
I have only recently found out from an interview with Bill Murray where he was like, because he's actually going to be in an upcoming MCU film. He was like, the interviewer asked him, is it true that you actually did join the Marvel Universe a long time ago? He was like, Yes, I played the Human Torch in the radio show, and he in the interview, it was so cool. He was like, "There's only one thing I remember from it, and that's flame on."
Yeah, Flame On. I can't imagine him doing that's a hilarious character for him. That's so weird. But I could definitely hear it. I could see him doing it and leading and lending his voice to such a like humorous, like comedic relief kind of character as the Human Torch. That's brilliant. No, it was an animated series, 1978 animated sci-fi show, The Fantastic Four. He did Ben Grimm. I don't know who played the Human Torch on that, but that's it. That's all I got.
All right. Well, my trivia from the episode was, well, first, the Zoomobiles carrying the tour group feature the same color scheme and configuration as the trolleys used for the Universal Studios tour in the 70s. Most likely, the producers commandeered them for use in this episode.
That makes sense.
So during conversation, Dr. Claudia Baxter asks David, "Where are you from?" And to which David responds, "Most recently, New York." However, David Banner has not been present in New York City in any of the episodes we've seen him in yet, but he does appear in New York City 2 episodes later in Terror in Times Square. So I guess maybe these episodes aren't in order, but of continuity. And the scene where the Hulk battles the gorilla, the lamp on the desk gets knocked over. Right before Hulk runs through the door, you can see the lamp is upright again in the background. When Carl stands Claudia up after taking her out of the car, Carl screams before Claudia kicks him in the shin. This is another goof, and then the last thing is also a goof. But so the last thing is when Carl gets into the yellow Jeep and drives off, the director can be heard yelling "cut" at the end of the scene.
I love the stuff that must be just left in because things were shot on film back then, and someone didn't catch it, but they had to go with what they had that day. It's too funny.
The answer to my trivia question from earlier was Joe Fixit.
I just saw that when I just set a couple of Grey Hulk videos aside on YouTube to learn more about him, and one of them did say Joe Fixit on it, so that makes sense.
So do you have any final thoughts before we end off the episode?
I'm excited to see where David takes us next, and if he goes to New York soon, I wouldn't, the Terror in Times Square episode sounds awesome, and I can't wait to see what happens on episode 5 and 6.
Thank you for coming on, Keith, and here's my outro. Thank you for listening, and if you like this gamma analysis, please give a 5-star rating. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the episode, so please let me know. And if you'd like to hear more from me, please subscribe. Many more gamma analysis coming from me, so keep on the lookout. This again is your host, Smash Trivia John, signing off.